Welcome to the F&O podcast from CRM Audio. Joel Lindstrom here with Sean Tabor, and we'd like to introduce Sukrut Parab to you. Hello, Sukrut.
Hi, Joel. Hi, Sean. I'm working as a senior manager here in Hitachi Solutions America Limited. I mostly work on the finance and operations technical architecture side. With a total 12 plus years of experience.
And if anybody goes to the Dynamics community, I'm sure many people do, but go to the forums, you will see Sukrut's picture because he's always like in the top three or four people on the forums for years. I mean, it's like he's an institution there. So we were just talking. We need to have this guy on the podcast.
Right. So I'm from last 2.5 years, I'm contributing a lot, and I'm almost in top 10 verified answers every month. And this month I've been recognized as a community spotlight as well.
And that's really a huge feat. I have suffered so much in trying to contribute to the forums because I always want to make sure that my answer is validated. So I say, oh, I know the answer to that. And then I go out and make sure and double check and, validate that what I'm thinking is right. And I come back and 7 people have answered the question. So I should just answer the question and then let the community validate it. But so kudos to you, Sukrut.
Do you ever have anybody, Sukrut, either contact you or comment on one of your very old forum answers and you point out how you're wrong? And the fact is it's just that was 3 years ago and it's different now?
It's not happened to me, but I saw it's happening to other people where they responded to some questions which was, somebody asked in 2017, and when they come and update that somebody comes and asks another question on that top of that. But, it's completely changed. It's 2 years ago, right? So it's completely changed. So somebody is again correcting the person saying, okay, that was 2 years back. Now the story is different. So you have to go with these new solutions. It's not happened to me, but I saw it a lot.
Yeah, so I always have a snappy response of, you realize that was 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the release notes, and on the Power Platform and customer engagement side, we got the early release opt-in the beginning of this week, right? This was actually the end of last week. Right. We don't yet have that for F&O, do we?
Preview features. Some of them we can see actually as a platform, part of platform update 29. Not all.
Outside of the platform changes, you can't yet turn on the ability to see the content in a trial org or anything, or in a sandbox. Correct?
No.
Okay, that's coming next week, right?
Right.
Okay.
So before we get started, I'm a little bit confused about terminology because we talk about finance and operations, what we used to call AX.
Right.
But then I also see this thing called unified operations. And sometimes when Microsoft talks about F&O, they call it unified operations. So can you clarify what is unified operations and what's finance and operations?
Yeah, so finance and operations is only, they separated for retail from the finance and operations. So when they call unified finance and unified operations, that means it comes with, it includes retail Dynamics 365 for retail, along with the finance and operations and other different, product lines they created. So, and when you say they talk about only finance and operations, that means only finance and operations that includes, regular base version of finance and operations. No, not excluding retail, sales, all those different product lines.
Okay, so F&O is a subset of unified operations, but unified operations includes a lot more like retail.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So we talked about pretty extensively, as we always do, the release plan for Dynamics 365, but the major gap there that we didn't touch on, I guess we didn't really talk about retail either, but finance and operations. We didn't have anybody on those episodes when we were talking about that. So there's a big F&O size hole in our coverage of this. So we wanted to have you help remediate it. And I know there's a lot of content in there, as with CE, but I know you've gone through that and are getting ready for it. So can you talk through kind of what some of the major changes and new features are going to be?
Sure. Yeah. So to talk about, let's talk from the from the starting point itself. It starts with the cloud operations, with the lifecycle and the lifecycle services, right? So there are a lot of cool features coming, which are related to the deployments, data process integrations, globalizations, in finance and supply chain as well. Of course, this is a huge release I can see, and it's impossible to cover everything in this one. But we will go through the few major ones which I selected. Like the first one from the list is I'd love to talk about is self-service deployments. So this is something is going to change the way the environments are deployed. Going forward. So in last year fall, Microsoft released self-service deployments option for the new customers. So like for the old customers, like some of the customers which I am working on currently, they are still on the old version where you have to request Microsoft to deploy your sandbox and production environments. With this new self-service deployment capability, and that is as a part of this plan, they are going to enforce, existing customers as well to switch over to the self-service deployments as well. So with the self-service deployment, your deployment of your sandbox and production environments are going to be in your hand, and you can deploy those environments within 30 minutes. The downfall of this self-service deployment is you don't, as a customer or as a partner, you're not going to get any access to these environments. So if you are still working with the old sandbox environments, there you have ability to log in with this admin credentials. You can log into SQL Server and do whatever you want to do with on those servers, on the sandbox at least, not a production environment, of course. But with this new self-service deployment option, they are taking away that ability. So you have no more access to admin credentials on tier 2+ environments, and you'll continue to have access to Azure SQL database, and you can connect to those using lifecycle services. So they are going to provide some features on LCS, which you can utilize to do your operations, which you used to do by logging into server earlier. Another thing they are going to enforce on is, preparing for, deployments through a single package. So right now, customers can deploy their code to the environments through deployable packages, and they can include multiple packages in their deployment. The reason for making over this switch is because they want, as a self-service deployment option, it's going to be easy, because when you include multiple packages, there are so many dependencies, and it's very difficult for them to create environments. So with this self-service, because they are going to enforce this self-service deployment on existing customers as well, they want to enforce the customers to have only single package as a deployment unit. And that is going to help with the continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines as well. Another thing is zero downtime for the self-service deployments. That means any customer with this who is of course you can reschedule your deployment, self-service deployments from. They are going to give ability to do that. But if you adapt to the new self-service deployment option, then with that you are going to get a zero downtime flow for monthly service updates. So Microsoft releases I don't know how it works for the C, but for F&O they release platform updates every month, right? Which includes some platform features. So for those platform updates are going to be have a zero downtime.
Okay, so it sounds like really F&O is going through what we back when it was CRM Online, starting with way back, years ago, went through that kind of thing where you have the angst of, I'm giving up control over the servers. I can't log into the servers. I can't log into my database. Oh no, what am I going to do? You just have to trust Microsoft. And we've learned, having multiple years now, that it's better, I guess.
And
just because, but you've got the legacy. I'm sure companies have legacy, staff, administrators, DBAs, whatever. That's their job, and so they're probably worried. Oh no, I'm irrelevant now.
Right, and that's what I see. They are exactly following what you said. They are exactly following, what CRM, you guys did in the past, and F&O is exactly on that path now.
And then add to that the automatic updates, which for us was about a year ago they started that. And again, there was angst. We haven't seen anybody blow up or anything. There's been a couple of stumbles, but they're now pretty smooth. So I think you're probably going to benefit from CE doing that first, because they have a very smooth process now, and we actually have weekly updates on CE, and occasionally new bugs are introduced, but the flip side is it's a whole lot faster to get things fixed. If there is a bug or a platform issue, it generally gets fixed very quickly.
Right. As a part of April 2019 release, they started doing automatic updates, but this zero downtime is something new they are going to introduce in October 2019 as a generally available. So you can postpone these updates for 3 months as a part of 2019 April release, but now they are going to make that updates are going to be the zero downtime and with the little interruption to the business users. So the batch jobs and all the running batch jobs will be terminated during the update window, but you can start a new batch job while running the update itself, which is a cool thing. Earlier in old versions, you have to stop all the services, everything, and you have to stop all the operations while applying these kind of updates. But with the new with this, so it would be interesting to see how they are going to manage it with this zero downtime update policy.
So does Microsoft stay away from certain, say like the end of the month for updates? Because so many companies are closing out their fiscal month or fiscal year in some cases. I can imagine they have to be careful about when they choose to push out updates.
Right.
Well, and it's a little bit different with the zero downtime for me in my understanding of it, because with CE, with customer engagement, we have the zero downtime as well. But if we have an update, it's even if there was some downtime that was needed for users, it has less impact than what in ERP would have, to my mind, because even with zero downtime, if there's a change that has not been fully tested and vetted by that business or by that IT org, that could have serious consequences for reporting, for inventory levels, for procurement, for it's quite invasive to my mind.
Right.
Am I getting that right?
I completely agree with you with that. With the finance and operations, there are so many operations going on with the inventory, financials, and if any single break in any business process can cost a lot of money to the customer. So it's a little scary, but it would be nice to see how they are going to deal with it.
It's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you find that with the updates, is it handled? Oh, because for example, let me reset. For customer engagement, when we do an update, we typically do an update at either at an app level or for or for all the updates, right? So
Right.
how is that handled for F&O? Do we do an update where it's only affecting manufacturing, where it's only affecting inventory, where it's only affecting um, orders?
It
How do we handle that?
So it depends on what is included in those updates. If it is a platform update, then that's the core change in their application. So, and it's very difficult to tell anything about platform updates, because it can break anything. It can break your any custom process if you are using platform code in your processes. If they change something, like for example, if I'm using my custom process to integrate sales orders with something, and I'm using framework classes for that. Now Microsoft, as a new platform update, if they mark some objects as an internal, which I'm using in my custom application, then definitely it's going to break my custom app, right? So that is going to be and that is something we experienced in the past with these platform updates. So it can impact your overall application or a certain process as well. If it is a application update, then definitely it impacts, depending on the changes they have done in different modules like finance or inventory, it can impact those processes. So there are two different types of updates: platform updates and binary updates. Platform updates which are binary, and application updates which can impact your application. Application means different modules like GL, accounts receivable, payable, or trade and logistics, those kind of modules. So depending on the change they have done, it can impact. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that would make me so nervous. I'm suffice to say I feel relatively comfortable on the customer engagement side.
So you said that people are going to be forced to go to the self-service model with the Wave 2?
Yes. So with the Wave 2, they are going to enforce existing customers as well to go to the self-service deployment options for sandbox and production environments.
What's the deadline for that?
The deadline is not yet decided, but it just says that it's going to be applicable from October, and we'll come to know about the deadlines maybe once they release that as a generally available. It's generally available for.
Okay. So besides the changes to the deployment, and that's probably a huge deal for people who are currently not on the self-service. What about some other functional changes that are coming?
Yeah. So from the functional perspective, I will talk about the data and integration process first. So from the data and integration perspective, they are going to introduce a new concept called as data feeds. So that is again a event-driven architecture where you can you can subscribe to a specific data feed, such as customer data feed or sales order data feed, and that is going to be a near real-time export of finance and operations data. So that data, using data feeds, you can send that data to Azure Data Lake or messaging services, and any other business applications or systems can subscribe to those data feeds. So that is another thing which is looks interesting. A similar as a part of platform update 28, I think, or 26, they after as a part of platform update 23, they made another feature called as available, which is like make your entity store. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of entity store concept, but entity store from Dynamic Finance and Operations, you can export it to your own Azure Data Lake. So, and that is a close to real time. So within a minutes, you can export your entity store data to Azure Data Lake, where you can in Azure Data Lake you can have your data from other systems, and you can do your reporting based on out of that. So data feeds again looks similar to that, but again it's a event-driven architecture. So you can subscribe to a specific data feeds, and you can have that data feed in your own data lake. Another thing is triggering Flow, Microsoft Flow, through buttons in finance and operations. So they are going to provide ability to add buttons on workspaces in finance and operations, and you can trigger a Microsoft flow from those buttons. They introduce a new feature called as business events, where business events provides mechanism to receive a notification from finance and operations to the external system. So the business events you can consume those business events in Flow, and that is already released. I don't know the exact platform version, but that part is already released. And this
So
feature,
are those business events going to be triggers so that a certain type of events can trigger flows now automatically?
Yeah, so if suppose sales order, if you talk about sales order creation, right? So sales order creation, if C wants to know that sales order is created within finance and operations, you can subscribe to that business event, and once the sales order is created within finance and operations, you can there are some predefined event catalog, business event catalog, which is in finance and operations. You can create your own events as well, custom events, but predefined contracts, you can consume that event in Flow, and Flow can send a notification to C, saying that the sales order has been created. But that is limited to only to receive notifications in the to the external systems. It's not like something you can use it for exporting data out of finance and operations. But with the data, yeah.
So you said you can't use it to export data out. So it's just like a single record trigger, right?
Trigger,
So
yeah.
this order happened. Do you have access to all the data fields on the order in that case? So it sounds like it's kind of fundamentally different than how you do it with CDS or Dynamics, which is CDS or Dynamics, you have certain common triggers like records deleted, records created, records updated that then can trigger the flow. This
Right.
is tying it to specific processes and specific
Yeah, this
things.
is tying it to a specific business event.
Okay. Well, that's an improvement because right now we don't have any triggers for F&O. Every time
Right.
I do a flow presentation, it's always the F&O. It's always the F&O users and administrators are saying, "Hey, can I use this with F&O?" And I say, "Absolutely, you can read F&O. There's just no triggers yet." So having triggers for the common business processes is great.
Right.
Sukrut, the new revenue recognition, I can't say the word, revenue recognition features.
Revenue recognition.
There you go. That's what I was trying to say. I assume that there's enhancements to allow for the 606 compliance in this, or is this a different type of feature set outside of that?
I haven't looked at it yet. The new revenue recognition features, that is something, I have to explore more on that.
I asked because I had a customer recently who that was a very, very big piece of the project for them. They had significant concerns about those requirements coming up very quickly in the project, and when I saw that was a feature set, I wasn't sure if that was speaking specifically to that or not. So interesting to find that out.
Right.
So I got to ask you something. Last release in the release notes, there was something that was specifically for like Russian alcohol manufacturers or something just really, really specific. And I just wondered, like, how do they decide that gets a priority?
Yeah. So depending on the that's a part of the globalization, I think, features. I am not sure about the priority they decide, but depending on the country's government regulatory things, they decide what to implement for which country. Like for, as you said, for Russia, they just implemented the alcohol related things. Similarly for India, they implemented GST things, right? So based on the regulatory requirements, they might be deciding the priority of those features.
Okay. All right. So what else we got?
So you guys must be already aware of this the Finance and Operations Data and Common Data Service, which was in public review since June 2019. So they are going to do a lot of improvement to that as a part of this release plan. They are going to add more templates and going to give ability to do extensions on the entities which can be published to Common Data Service. Of course, dual write is going to be the out of the box feature as a part of this release. Right now it's in preview, and it's going to be out of the box experience with as a part of this release. And I think guys must have already talked about dual write.
Yeah, we talked about it. I think for projects like where we use field service or other projects that have inventory and parts and things like that, it's a really big deal. We have a couple people on our team playing with it, and I've heard it's really nice, but also there's some things about it that make me wonder sometimes. So like if you're non-standard, either especially if in the CDS, if you do things in a non-standard way, it's kind of I don't want to say it's a non-starter, but it's going to be a challenge because it doesn't give you a lot of ways to tweak it and change it, from what I hear. Is that accurate?
Right, that's correct. So they divided this as a part in two phases. So as a part, phase one is already there, which where we see some of the customer, vendors, and products related information. We can as a part of preview features, we can I also worked on the dual write where we try to integrate customers to see, and it's really fast. It's like as you change the customer in F&O and immediately just switch the tab and see, you can immediately see the changes are reflected over there and see. That's really cool. And as a part of phase one, they are just releasing some templates. Those are for some financial related data, which are like dimensions within a customers, vendors, and product properties, barcodes related to products, units which are used in finance and operations. Those kind of things are a part of phase one. As a part of phase two release, they are going to concentrate more on the sales, inventory, sales, and procurement sides. So right now, when we are doing this dual write, exploring dual write things, there are so many limitations where we are trying to explore the possibility of integrating sales order. But I see that is coming in phase two. The date is not announced yet for that one, but it's going to be, I think, in public preview somewhere in December 2019.
Okay, so can you clarify what parts of F&O are included in the dual write capabilities?
Yes. So they have given a long list of entities, but there are some 30 entities which are included currently. So that includes legal entities within finance and operations, operating unit that holds the financial dimensions data, customer groups. Those are customers, vendors, customer groups, vendor groups, some retail loyalty card related functionalities that is included. Then payment related information. So whatever payments which are processed within F&O, that information is covered. Products, product master, release products, and product properties that are also included. And unit of measures. So each unit of measures for each product, whatever unit of measures which we configure. So pretty basic things I see right now. These are all kind of master data within F&O. So I don't see any entities which are or templates which are created which we can use to export sales or inventory transactions related data yet.
Okay, so does dual write Is it bidirectional or is it just writing data to the
It's
CDS?
bidirectional. It's bidirectional.
So you'll have to account for, because typically the stuff you're mentioning, like your units of measure, you would never have people editing that outside of F&O, right?
Right.
You'd want to make that read only in your security roles and CDS. But to me, the initial, first glance is like that'll make our integrations with CE and F&O much easier. The second thing that jumps out to me is that really opens the door for more Power Apps and Flow connected to F&O data.
F&O
Because
data, yeah.
well, there's limited triggers for Flow, for example, for F&O. There's much richer capability from CDS, and same thing with Power Apps.
Right.
Rather than connecting to F&O
F&O
with your Power
directly.
App,
Yeah.
connect to CDS,
CDS.
which is a much faster performant connector, and then go. So I think I can envision F&O customers maybe that don't even have customer engagement spinning up a CDS environment so that they can leverage Power Platform with F&O more effectively.
More effectively, yes. And that is this move is again, to provide a one Dynamics 365 experience, right? Because once your data is in common data service, you can do whatever you want with that. Mostly it opens, because as you said, right now connecting, there are very limited triggers for for Flow, very limited things we can do with Flow or Power Apps. But with CDS, we can now, it opens a door for more Power Platform uses. We can use Power Platform more efficiently with F&O. And the good thing is they are going to make this framework extensible, so you enable your custom entities as well as a part of this. So you can build your custom entities, make it you build your custom templates, and export it to the CDS.
What I would really love to see is if we could get into a situation with dual write, where let's say I submit a parts order through integration from field service to F&O, and I could write back an inventory level to CDS, right? So
Right.
that way I can, because one of the big challenges when you're implementing field service on the customer engagement side, and you want to be able to, let's say you have a manufacturing customer who creates their own products. It's difficult to successfully determine what availability you have for parts inventory without building some kind of custom inventory object in customer engagement, which is duplicating work that's already in F&O, and then you have to keep them in balance and in sync. And it's just a pain, quite frankly. So if we could ever get to a point where that information is just written to CDS as those transactions occur, that would be, to my mind, that would be amazing for field service.
So what about the product catalog structure, though? Because I've always heard people say that, to paraphrase, product catalog in D365 CE stinks, but it's awesome in F&O. So if we're dual writing the awesome F&O product catalog to the not so awesome CE product catalog, do we lose anything in transit there, or is it a not full copy of the product catalog? What are the key differences from what you've seen, Sukrut?
From product catalog perspective, definitely it's not fully fully matured yet. Definitely you have I read somewhere that you have to duplicate a lot of records in C when you do if you do product catalog integration. Well, that is something we have to explore more on both the sides, C and F&O, and it depends upon, again, what if they are going to provide any existing template, what they are going to offer in that template.
Yeah, I think the areas of comparison where CE or the CDS product catalog usually gets knocks is things like bundling products together in like a configuration where you've got subcomponents that build up a bigger product like a
Right.
vehicle.
So
That's where we frequently have to
yeah,
like
that's
go to a configurator like Explogix or something.
right. I know what you're talking about. That's actually bill of materials, setting up bill of materials within finance and operations to build a larger product. So
Yeah,
setting up
there's no bill of materials. There's bundles and things like that with
things
these
like
Right.
little
that.
kits.
Right.
Right. With field service, typically, if the customer has requirements for bill of materials, we have to create that as either a sub asset or create a custom object to house that information. I did that for a couple of my customers. But there's also when we're talking about the synchronization between those two product catalogs, given the requirements for customer engagement, there's also things that you have to make sure are updated in CE that wouldn't necessarily be attributes in F&O. So it's still even with dual write, if we had that dual write, there's still that delta of capability between customer engagement and F&O based on its nature for field service and for project service, for example, where we would still have some gaps. But I would really like to see that dual write enhanced to where that was more functional for CE in a field service capacity, anyways.
So, a question for you, Sukrut. We have probably a number of other new features. So this probably won't be our only podcast on this topic. Maybe in a week or two we can do a second version of this. But I guess in the time we have left, setting aside the specifics of the new features, how do you advise people that are currently on F&O to get ready for what's coming? We will have the ability soon to install it in a sandbox. Then sometime in the next 2.5, 3 months, the update will arrive for them. So how do they prepare and control the angst with their cheese moving?
Yep. So definitely there is a lot of new features which are coming in, and not every customer or not every customer can immediately go with these new features. But with F&O, it's always difficult to upgrade or update to the newest platform. Unless you are a brand new customer to the Microsoft, where you implemented everything with the new extension approach. F&O was a highly customizable product before, right? And with this finance and operations, you have to they introduced some new concepts of extensions and extensions, removing overlaying capabilities. So there are still so many customers are there in the market which are dealing with these problems, removing overlaying and all those things. So definitely it would be good to have deploy fresh dev sandbox or dev machines and install these preview features and explore these features and get ready to update their environments to the new with these new updates. But again, with F&O, like for one of the customers which I am working on, they are still struggling to remove, because we upgraded them from AX 2012 to finance and operations, but they had their application customized for more than 70% of their application was customized. And when we upgrade, all the code comes as an overlaid code. So first thing is to upgrade them to the newest version, which is 8.1 onwards. They completely removed the ability to do overlaying. So first thing is to bring them to the 10.0, and after that they can prepare for all these things. So there are still some majority of the customers who are lagging with these frequent releases, but again, this is something, everyone has to get on one day. And because if you are not on the latest update, you're going to lose your support. So definitely everyone should prepare and at least do, internally, although it's not your application, do some demo machines, deploy some demo machines, and get familiar with these updates. And
so are some of the new features, are like with CE, are they doing preview features where a feature will be available, but it's a preview feature before it becomes a generally available feature?
Yes. So these in I don't know about C how you can enable those, but in FNO they introduced a concept called as flighting. So as a part of previous updates, these platform updates, they make that feature as a part of application, but it's not enabled for everyone. And you can request Microsoft support to enable those features for you in the production in your sandbox environment, and you can preview those features. So that's feature called as flighting, where you can enable, they have some flighting codes which are available on their doc site as well. You can use those codes and utilize those preview features in your sandbox environment.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's similar.
Yes.
A little bit different in how you do it, but the general idea would be, they give you the option to try these things before they fully bake them. Yeah. Okay.
Before, at least they give you before 3 months.
Okay.
Well, and Sukrut, talking about just trying finance and operations, at one point they had a 18-month trial available. Is that still available, or do you know?
No, as far as I know, if you want to do a trial, it has very limited features and it's only 30 days trial.
Okay.
And if you are not a customer or partner, you can just go to trial.dynamics.com and you can just sign up for 30 days trial.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool. Well, Sukrut, appreciate you coming on here. This definitely won't be the last time. I know there's a number of things we haven't talked about.
Yep.
We could probably have a 5-hour podcast going in depth about everyone, but how about we come back in maybe 2 weeks and revisit the list? By that time, most likely the new preview will be out, and he'll have a chance to have actually looked and touched and felt it, and give us some of your feedback on it.
Sure. Yep.
And so if people want to follow you, besides going to the Dynamics communities, what is your blog? How can they read your blog posts?
I host a blog on community itself called as Dynamics 365 for Operations with Sukrut. That's on the, again, community. And I have my personal blog as well, but it's not updated yet with all the blog posts which are there on the community. So definitely I'm going to update those and share with everyone. But currently my blog is on the community.dynamics.com. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we'll get a link in the show notes. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks, John, for inviting me.